You know, there's nothing like an absolutely despicable, corrupt, pathetic individual like Donald Trump. This fool decided to sue. He decided to sue the IRS because his taxes got leaked, where it showed how he had been cheating, frankly, and barely paying any taxes. So he sued for $10 billion. Knew that wasn't going to fly. So then he decides to create this compensation fund of 1.776, 1776, for the people who were impacted, if you will, by January 6th. You know, the white domestic terrorists who sat here and attacked the Capitol. Now, they're calling this an anti-weaponization fund by saying that these people, oh my God, their lives were ruined and it was just rough on them and they had to hire attorneys and all this sort of stuff like this here. Now, of course, Trump is also mad that Mar-a-Lago was searched by the FBI. Well, because he actually had retained documents that he should not have. Then there's a Russian collusion scandal. So when he was asked about this, frankly, it's a slush fund, this is what the twice impeached, criminally convicted felon con man in chief had to say.
So Roland Martin and the Democrats are pissed because Donald Trump and his administration, I told y'all that there's a political war between the radical right and the radical left. So now Donald Trump, he comes with his fund. And remember, he sued the IRS for $10 billion, right? And he didn't win that suit, but then he announced the anti-weaponization fund. And this anti-weaponization fund is a fund that's set in place where he can't be prosecuted for certain things. They had $1.7 billion set aside to help people that was falsely terrorized or prosecuted by the federal government, right? And he's taking care of his people. He's taking care of the people. Remember the insurrection on January 6th? He's making sure his people are straight. Those that followed him. Now, this is the thing, right? The Democrats was doing the same thing. Remember, they were silencing free speech. They was using those private entities and NGO money to take care of their people. When we was arguing and saying, hey, stop putting these people in our community, they was telling us to shut up. It was going on deaf ears. So neither party gives a damn about us, right? Neither party gives a damn about foundational Black Americans. We're watching the fight between both parties to see how this money is going to be disseminated and whose agenda is going to come into play.
The Justice Department has this new fund that was announced today, $1.7 billion. Yeah. Why should taxpayers pay for the January?
Well, it's been very well received, I have to tell you. I know very little about it. I wasn't involved in the whole creation of it and the negotiation. But this is reimbursing people that were horribly treated. It's anti-weaponization. They've been weaponized. They've been, in some cases, imprisoned wrongly. They paid legal fees that they didn't have. They've gone bankrupt. Their lives have been destroyed. And they turn out to be right. I mean, it was a terrible period of time in the history of our country. And they worked on it. I know the Justice Department, it's really been working on it very hard. There's been numerous other occasions over the years where things like this have been done. But these were people that were weaponized and really treated brutally by a system that was so corrupt, with corrupt people running it, and they're getting reimbursed for their legal fees and the other things that they had to suffer.
Now, it's being said that this was passed without getting the proper votes in the House or the Senate. They just passed this bill on their own. Donald Trump and the gangsters in suits is doing what they want to do, right? I keep trying to tell y'all, gangsters is not the guys on the block with the hot Glock and the tattoos on their face that they want to call thugs, right? It's the ones that legislate bills. It's the ones that get bills passed. It's the ones that wear suits, whether Democrat or Republican, right? These are the people. So let's look at what the news is reporting.
President Trump has struck a deal with the Justice Department. The president has agreed to drop a $10 billion lawsuit against the IRS to create a fund that would compensate some of his closest allies using taxpayer money. Here's D.C. Bureau reporter Ross Ketchke with reaction tonight.
It is anti-weaponization.
Tonight, the Department of Justice is setting aside more than $1.7 billion in taxpayer money set to be paid out to allies of President Donald Trump who were investigated by the Biden administration.
This is reimbursing people that were horribly treated.
The president has long argued he and his supporters were the subjects of politically motivated prosecutions. After losing to Joe Biden in 2020, Trump himself faced multiple state and federal investigations tied to his personal finances, retention of classified documents, and efforts to overturn the election results.
These were people that were weaponized and really treated brutally by a system that was so corrupt, with corrupt people running it.
Since returning to the White House last year, he's used the power of the presidency to reward his political allies, issuing sweeping pardons to more than 1,000 people connected to the January 6th Capitol riot. This new settlement fund is being created in exchange for the president dropping his own multi-billion-dollar lawsuit against the IRS over the leak of his tax returns. That case created complicated legal questions, with the president suing government agencies that now report directly to him as commander-in-chief. But Democrats are slamming the move as a corrupt handout to the president's friends. Congressman Jamie Raskin writing, "This case is nothing but a racket designed to take $1.7 billion of taxpayer dollars out of the Treasury and pour it into a huge slush fund for Trump at DOJ to hand out to his private militia of insurrectionists, rioters, and white supremacists, including those who brutally beat police officers on January 6, 2021, and sycophant accomplices to his election-stealing schemes."
Now, during Donald Trump's first stint, he wanted to implement a lot of different things he couldn't, because him and Mike Pence didn't see eye to eye on a lot of things. He couldn't get a lot of Republicans to go along with the things that he wanted to do. So now that he's in office again, he got elected again because of the fault of the Democrats and what they were doing, right, as far as pushing their agenda that a lot of people didn't agree with. So they ran on the thing where they went against the Skittles crew and a lot of things that they were doing. They promised a lot of things, but then Donald Trump also told you that he was going to come in and put tariffs on these countries. Everything that's happening in the country now, he told you what he was going to do. But this country's so racist because he ran off of MAGA, Make America Great Again, and black fatigue, and saying a whole bunch of, allowing groups to say a bunch of disparaging things about black people. He ran off that. A lot of people ran with that. Countered with the Democrats alienating the black community, right? By us giving them their vote, but they're totally going against everything that we were saying. We were screaming loud, saying, hey, we don't want to do this. We don't want this POC. We don't want this. But they still did it anyway. They're still doing it. So now they're crying racism to the hills for everybody, right? They're crying racism. They didn't set up provisions to counter things that they knew that the Republicans was coming with. They knew that they was going to cut that NGO money. Donald Trump was going to do that. They knew already from the Shelby case that they was going to come in and redistrict. They already knew this, right? But they couldn't get that John Lewis bill passed. There's a lot of things that they could have gotten passed, but they didn't push it hard enough. And they didn't make that the number one agenda. What they made the number one agenda was immigrants and migrants and money for them, right? So now Roland Martin is spending much of his time talking like this.
They are barring the IRS, Randy, from any past, present, or future investigations. The United States releases, waives, acquits, and forever discharges each of the plaintiffs from and is hereby forever barred and precluded from prosecuting or pursuing any and all claims, counterclaims, causes of action, appeals, or requests for any relief, blah, 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 blah. Are you serious? Like, what? This is the other thing. Once the funds are deposited into the designated account, the United States has no liability whatsoever for the protection of safeguarding those funds, regardless of bank failure, fraudulent transfers, or any other fraud or misuse of the funds. So basically, if you commit a crime with the funds, it's all good. So
this is Donald Trump's way of fighting back. Because remember, he got banned on social media under the Biden administration. They was suppressing thought and everything. You wasn't allowed to talk. Y'all remember the Disinformation Governance Board, right? The DGB in 2022. They also had they was doing a whole bunch of stuff, man, blocking stuff, taking channels down. People was being arrested. They had GFC, the Global Engagement Center. They had a whole bunch of stuff going on. Y'all can look this stuff up, right? And I was reporting on this stuff back then, but I was getting channels taken down. They was striking videos. They wouldn't green. I mean, they was going crazy during that administration, man, back in 2001, 2022. So there was a lot of things being done on their side, and they was using these private entities to do it, right? Getting funding from these private entities. So now Donald Trump is in position, and he's returning the favor back to them. So, and what the Democrats are doing, they're not educating the people on what's really going on. They just screaming racism. Well, really, this is a fight between two powerful W folks, right? Governmental entities. This is a fight between them, because neither party give a damn about foundational Black Americans. That's a fact, right? So this is why Don Lemon now was talking like this.
He named it after the founding of this country. He's paying the people who tried to destroy that country with a fund named after it with your tax dollars. Now, I just want you to think about something. And I mean, really think about it, okay? Think about if the Black president did this. If he had done any part of this. If Barack Obama had sued his own government, settled with himself in secret, created a $1 billion fund, almost a $2 billion fund, with no congressional oversight to pay his political allies. What if he did that? What would have happened? Y'all know exactly what would have happened. They would not have waited for a monologue. They would not have had him in chains. They would have had him in chains before sundown. Every network, every Republican, every talk radio host, from here to Tulsa, screaming, treason! And you know what they would be thinking? Now this, of course, the Black man is going to behave that way, but this time it's the white man. The National Guard would have been called in. Impeachment articles would have been filed before the ink dried. Oh my God, can you imagine Fox News? Wow, Fox News would have run, they would have run it 24/7. For the next 10 years, they would have built a museum called the Barack Obama Corruption Museum. The Obama, crime family. But instead, it's like they called Joe Biden the Biden crime family. The Trumps are that's the crime family. But it is Trump, so it's Monday.
So, of course, there are people that disagree with this. They disagree with this in Congress, in the Senate. There's a lot of things. But Trump and his people, listen, they're doing what they want to do the same way the Biden administration did what they want to do, right? Like I said, you got a whole bunch of gangster stuff going on both sides. You had, like I said, you had the Biden administration weaponizing. They had a weaponizing committee that exposed the Joe Biden White House censorship, right? And we all remember what was going on during that censorship stuff. Yes, right? And to the point now where you're not even allowed to have your opinion. If you disagree with the Skittles crew or you disagree with a lot of stuff that's going on, you're not allowed to have a voice. Man, they will fire you. Man, even if you were saying a woman was a woman, you was in trouble under that administration. Let's keep it all the way 100, right? I'm not lying. This ain't something. So both parties are out of their mind, right? But let's look at what was going on in Congress and everywhere else.
Add a new section to the rule providing immediate consideration of H.R. 7711, the No Rewards for January 6 Rioters Act. So this bill would prohibit the use of federal funds to compensate individuals who were prosecuted for their involvement in the attack on the United States Capitol on January 6, 2021. Additionally, my motion would self-execute an amendment that would require the Attorney General of the United States to disclose any payments made by the so-called anti-weaponization fund, which was created by the corrupt settlement agreement between Donald Trump and his own administration. This secret slush fund should be an outrage to every American, no matter your politics. I would urge a yes vote on my motion, and I yield back.
And the question is on the amendment. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. No. The noes have it. The amendment's not agreed to.
Now I would like to recognize the Vice Chair of the full committee, Senator Murray.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Acting Attorney General, right now, families are paying $4, $5, even $6 or $7 for gas. Inflation is at its highest level in years because of the president's policies. But instead of helping Americans get by, President Trump is literally using their tax dollars to set up a slush fund to enrich his own friends. On Monday, your department settled the president's lawsuit by setting up a fund with $1.8 billion, and you and the president will pick the handful of people who decide how that money gets doled out. So let's be clear. What we're talking about is nothing short of the sitting president of the United States looting from the Treasury for his own gain. Do you seriously think this arrangement is appropriate? The president telling the federal government to settle a case and let him pay billions to the people that he chooses?
What you just described wouldn't be appropriate, and that's absolutely not what happened, and that's not what's happening now. So you just set up a series of facts, most of which were not true.
No,
No, it's not. I mean,
the president has set up a slush fund, however you want to say that it got set up, and he literally will get to choose through his hand-picked appointees who gets paid that fund. That is absurd.
The president did not set up this fund. It's not a slush fund. It's been done many times. We have lots of funds.
I heard your response earlier to Senator Van Hollen. This is not comparable to the case that you cited. A judge was not involved. This is the president versus himself setting up a fund.
The judge wasn't involved in the distribution in the Keep Siegel case at all. It just wasn't. There was a single commissioner that was set up, not five. And so when
the judge signed off on that case.
Yes, it was at a much later point in the litigation.
That's right. My point. That is all of our point. And I just have to tell you, this is corruption that has never been more blatant or more widespread. What is happening is you write the check, Trump and his cronies cash it, American taxpayers who are already being whacked with high prices are going to foot the bill. That's what we are seeing today, and that is what many of us are really, really angry about.
So again, that's the Trump administration doing what they do. Now, because Trump and MAGA is very upset with Trump. America right now is going into the toilet. They, there's a war going on that he promised that they wasn't going to be involved in. Gas prices are through the roof. Food prices are through the roof, and MAGA's upset. So more than likely, you have the midterms coming. Donald Trump is not his regime is not going to get reelected. So I'm very, very interested to see the tactics and what the Democrats are going to do when they get back in office. What are some of the things that they're going to do to reverse some of these things, and how extreme are they going to be? Because this is a battle. Right? But y'all gotta let me know what y'all think, man. If you made it this far in the video, hit that like button, subscribe to Street Media TV, leave your comments in the comment section. Remember, I love y'all. Until next time, peace.